Hi everybody, Dana Lewin here again, and welcome back to Tuesday Tips for Leaders of Volunteers. This week, a summary of my own experiences and what I gleaned from other sessions that I could not personally attend from the first ever Alive National Summit on Volunteer Engagement. So this is my summit summary. If you couldn't make it in person, or like me, you were there and you couldn't clone yourself and go to all of the wonderful sessions that were happening at the same time as something else you wanted to go to or were presenting at, in my case, then this is the video for you. So a quick summary, a lot of shout outs to friends and colleagues who do incredible work. I think I was most excited about seeing my longtime friend and colleague Amira Barger in person again for her book, The Price of Nice. Highly recommend this book. She did a great session comparing nice, being polite and kind of maintaining the status quo with a culture of politeness versus having nerve. So nice versus nerve was one of the highlights for me. I also got great feedback on my own presentation on the first day, which is AI good or bad? What you think you know is not the reality. So I'm glad that expanded people's understanding to have a holistic understanding of AI, how it functions today, where it came from, why it's everywhere. So I was glad to get good reviews on that. And again, with a summit like this, with I think it was 280 or so people, just under 300 people, I really appreciated the way that the Alive committee that put this together, Shelley Beck did an incredible amount of work, Jordania Reeves, the Alive president, Nicole R. Smith, of course, the executive director of Alive, and there's a lot of teams and committees that put this together. But I appreciated that this was a more advanced and also had a lot of variety that you don't always see even at much larger events like Points of Light conference that I attended last June. And here's my summary of Points of Light if you want that as well. There was a connection and presence to the work of Points of Light here. Specifically, there was a great session with Megan Singer and Amber Melanie Smith, kind of getting consensus on what would Points of Light's national strategy be. That's something they're working on. So they had a great session. I heard a lot of great things about it. I popped into part of it as much as I could on the day. And that really is getting the consensus from volunteer engagement professionals, leaders of volunteers like you and me every day, on what can we do as a national strategy. And then that fed directly into a meeting of people invited into Atlanta the next week after the summit, just this past week, to continue working on that national strategy together in working groups. So it's good to see that connection and that through point of what Alive's doing with a small summit still tying into these larger national conversations with other groups and entities. Another thing that I really appreciated, not just the variety of topics, the variety of voices and experts that we know and love in the field, a lot of friends and colleagues like Beth Steinhorn and Betsy McFarland, Dr. Sue Carter-Kale, with some newer voices popping up as well. I heard great things about Władysław Hirahenko's topic of kind of the global perspective on volunteering. And I also appreciated that Alive designed the event in a way that there was always something fun to do. I hosted karaoke on opening night. That was fun. Faiza Van Zandt at the same time took a bunch of CVAs out to a delicious dinner of, I believe, Persian food. Yum. And then we had the night of celebration for the Impact Award winners for 2026, and particularly I was proud to help present the award for Lifetime Achievement to my fantastic lifelong friend and colleague, Gretchen Jordan. She has been the powerhouse behind the scenes of Alive for many, many years, and her retirement left gigantic shoes to fill in the sector. So it was very, very well deserved for her to get the Lifetime Achievement. So within 2.5 days, there was a lot of great information, a lot of camaraderie to be had, new friends to be made, seeing old friends in person again, if we haven't for a very, very long time. But overall, I think one of my favorite aspects that seemed unique to this summit was the chance to get about 15-20 minutes each with some of the main volunteer management software companies that were there boothing, exhibiting, and also as sponsors. I like it when there's a chance to really have a conversation that isn't just a sales pitch, with VMS companies. Some of the folks I've known in person for a long time. Some of them I met for the first time, but we've done other work together. I work very often with different VMS companies and creating content and advising and things like that. So it was great to make that connection. The big topic, not just because I was presenting on it, but also came up quite a bit with the kind of tech preview of the VMS, able to show off what makes them different, what makes them unique from others in the sector, and ask them questions is, who's using AI and how? Who is not using AI and still doing really well with their database design? So that's kind of one of the hot topics. One of the other hot topics was inclusion and diversity. Sarah Philippe, who's been on the channel before, talked about engaging with and understanding neurodiverse people as team members, as volunteers. There's kind of a paradox of inclusion that was discussed in some sessions of how can you honor how you define volunteerism versus mutual aid? What's counted? What counts? That was a big topic. Return on volunteer investment, a topic that is definitely all over the airwaves. I just did a Visas Voices webinar on the topic this month in March, and Beth Steinhorn and Tony Goodrow talk about ROVI, return on volunteer investment, with their own calculations. Dr. Sue Carter-Kale has her volunteer commons approach and research to including the return on volunteer investment with, social returns and things that are more qualitative and not just quantitative, but how does the volunteer activity move the needle on the cause and the mission? So this is a big hot topic. Coming back from the summit, fascinating to see that Jane Cravens has started to create her own system of measuring return on volunteer investment, or return on investment, ROVI or ROI for volunteers, without using the foundational mechanism that most of these other systems or calculators use of number of people, number of hours. So myself and again, Dr. Sue, we're really looking forward to what comes out of Jane's ideas around this, and I'll share those as soon as I possibly can. But overall, fantastic summit, great to see everybody. The only downside was the hotel staff itself fell short a couple of times, especially on the first day with audiovisual technical support. But by the next couple of days, by the final day, I think we had gotten them up to doing their jobs correctly. So the hotel itself fell a little bit short in some areas, but the incredible amount of work that went into the Alive Summit was well worth it. I'm really hoping that Alive can repeat the success every other year as possible, maybe every few years. This is a giant thing to produce with an organization that's primarily volunteer run, but kudos to everyone involved in the production of it. If you want to hear more details, there's a lot of my posts and others on LinkedIn, hashtag National Summit Volunteer Engagement and SVE 2026. You can look that up and see everyone else's impressions, because hey, some of the downside is that I can't be everywhere at once to experience all these great workshops at once. So I hope you have a great rest of the week. I hope you enjoyed this summary of the Alive National Summit on Volunteer Engagement that happened just a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And we'll see you next time with more Tuesday Tips. Take care.